Another episode of Millionaires Are Made, the show where we believe you can grow to be a millionaire in all six aspects of health. That's right, it's not just being rich in money, it's being rich in your physical health, your mental health, your social health, obviously your financial health, your intellectual health, and today we're going to focus on how to be a millionaire in your spiritual health. Our topic is fate. How can we improve our spiritual health with faith? I can't wait to learn. We've got three awesome guests ready to give us some tips. If you've never seen Millionaires Are Made, our show, it's built on the fundamental beliefs that every person you meet knows something you don't, and that there's something to be learned from everyone in this big, beautiful world. And in the spirit of authenticity, to try to remove any bias that we may have, we don't talk about tips, advice with our guests before the show. Most times, I don't even know who's about to be on our show till they show up backstage and we go over the show and the schedule, but we do not bias our tips. So you're going to learn three awesome pieces of advice from three awesome guests based on their life journeys and all of their experiences. It's going to be great. Audience, if you're watching this, thank you again so much. We love having you. We are an interactive show. Please comment and ask questions, and we will ask them live to our guests. So if you have any questions about fate, which I'm sure virtually everyone does, put them in the comments. We will monitor that and ask them live. Audience, and if you want anyone else that has a piece of advice that you want to share, and I know you do, feel free to sign up to be on our show. We love having new guests. It could be your first podcast, could be your 1,000th podcast. Either way, everyone's got something to share, and we want to help you get it out to the world. The link's being dropped right now, millionairesaremade.com. Come be a guest. Or if you are going through something a little troubling, maybe you're lost spiritually, maybe you're financially not so well, maybe your physical health isn't going well, or you can't figure out your nutrition, let us know. Shoot us a topic idea. We will go out and find three awesome guests that will give you three tips on how to get through that hump in your life. We would love to help you out with that. If you like what we do, please share, star, subscribe, click, heart, whatever it is, whatever social media you're watching us on. Support us. We love it. It helps us out so we can grow and help society grow as well. And if you do want to have another little offer I have, I offer free growth sessions. If you want to hang out and get a one-on-one coaching session, links being dropped below. I love helping people and teaching them and telling them everything I have to help you get through the tough parts of life. This show is currently brought to you by some super awesome brands. First off, we have Craig Sutkovsky. Craig is amazing. He's a human behaviorist and really helps entrepreneurs discover their true identity and purpose so that they can go achieve growth in business and life. Go check out Craig right now. Our next sponsor was Sarah Jones. Sarah is super smart and helps people master personal and business finances to build stable foundations for their future while she lives in an RV with her husband and travels the U.S. How freaking cool. If you want that, go check out Sarah Jones. We also are sponsored by Island Trail Adventures. Island Trail Adventures has guided hikes throughout the scenic Caribbean trails. If you are a hiker or you love the Caribbean or you want some of the best views in the world, go check out Island Trail right now. Go follow them on Insta or Facebook, like them, and check out the cool stuff that they're doing down there. And our last sponsor for this episode is Ross Alexander. Ross is a coach, used to be a huge athlete, but now inspires others through public speaking, sharing strategies for coping, achieving goals, and finding purpose in life. Thank you so much, sponsors. Now let's bring out our first guest. Her name is Manoj. Make sure you get that right. Manoj, who are you?
My name's Manoj Sarup. I am the founder of Life Index. And what we do is we preserve details and stories of deceased family members across 195 countries. Now, a lot of people come to us asking why. The reason is when people go away, let's say if I asked everybody in the audience and you as well, Austin, what do you know
Yes,
about your great grandparents? And your response would be either nothing or very minimal, correct?
I would say that's an accurate assumption.
Perfect. In both those cases, what happens, this information will never be transferred to next generations. And if it isn't transferred, we will lose few things. your heritage, your culture, your bloodline, and a lot of wisdom that has been left behind by those people that walked this earth once upon a time. If you
Very
remember reading history books, we all had something called apprenticeship. An apprenticeship taught you from family generations on generations, and they pass on trades, skills, and so on. But over a period of time, we've got schools, but schools don't teach you trades. They don't teach you skills. They only give you information. So once this is lost, it can never be retrieved. Now, once what our platform does, once you go onto our platform, put all the details about that deceased family member so that it's available to next generations. And why should it be available? Because the most important part is the medical history. Let's say if I'll take my story. My mom passed away because of cancer. Now, I wasn't aware my grandmother, my nan, had cancer. If I knew of that, I would have taken care of my mom. I would have taken to the hospital, got her checked a lot sooner, which means she did not have to be, diagnosed at stage 4, which means she did not have to go really quick and should not have to suffer. Now, if we know of this, we can go to the hospital and get those treatments started sooner. And I could have given her a better and a longer life, but that did not happen. And I don't want that to happen for anybody else. So the thing is, let's start preserving those details and stories, the medical history, who they were, what did they do, how did they die, what did they die of. Now there are other platforms out there which perform, which do this for you by providing, let's say, about $500 to about $1,000. But our service, we only do this for 11, about $9, $9 US, and that's all it is. It's only a one-time payment. It's not a subscription. It's not monthly. Once you pay that, that information is kept right over there for your next generation system.
Wow. All right. This is fascinating. We are definitely going to talk more about that. But
Awesome.
first, I have something important to ask you. If I
Sure.
wanted to improve my spiritual health with fate, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
Well, I would only give you one advice. Now, fate and karma, they go hand in hand. That is coming all the way from your past generations. And anywhere you go to any astrologer, anybody who's been around for long enough, they'll tell you everything that is in your life, it is engraved in your stories by your deceased family members or your ancestor. And that ancestral history is very important. Once you've been able to unlock that history, you'll be able to change loads of things and you'll be able to figure out what is coming next.
All right. All right. That's more conversation. All right. Okay, well let's go over a little more of where on your life journey did you learn that piece of advice?
So I lost my mother 3 years ago to COVID and cancer. And when I lost her, I felt lost. I wanted to figure out why did my mom get it? And once I figured that out, I said, I want to commemorate her for life so the next generations can get to know her story, who she was, what did she do, how did she die, what did she die of, any other success stories that she had, so that can be available to them. On top of that, I will also, that took me right back. Now, my grandmother is still alive, my dad's side. My grandmother's still alive. So I started discovering about my grandfather, who's no more. I found out a lot more about him. I found out a lot more about great grandfather. I lost my uncle. So all of that started intertwining, and everything came onto the platform for me to understand my grandfather was an alcoholic. Now, if he's alcoholic, which means somebody in our family will become an alcoholic. And luckily or not luckily, one of my brothers turned out alcoholic. So it is a karma, it is fate, and it is passed on by your ancestors because it is engraved in your DNA.
Wow. We have a question from the audience, real quick for you. Is this
Sure.
related to religion?
No, it isn't related to any religion. Anybody can use this platform. This is not Christianity, Hinduism, or Islam. Anybody can come onto this platform. Let's look at it this way. In Christianity, we bury people. You have a tombstone. On the tombstone, what do you find? A name, date of birth, death date, and one sentence. That's all it is. Now, we provide you a lot more information into that person's life rather than that, just those few things, because you want to pierce through. When you go into history books, what do you find about Alexander? What do you find about Caesar the Great? You find everything about them, who they were, what did they do, how did they die, what did they die of. What about our own family members who've done so much for us? Have we ever done anything?
That's awesome. What an interesting. I love it. We're gonna have to go check that out after this because that's the first I've heard of it. So thank you so much, Manoj. We're gonna move on to our next guest, Karen, and we'll bring you back out in the round robin. Karen, 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 who are you?
Hello. Hello, Austin. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Karen Briscoe. I am a 30 plus year nurse. I was born to be a nurse. I believe nurses are born, not manufactured, and I'm definitely a nurse. I'm a single parent of two amazing children, and I live in Tennessee. I
Cool.
also
Okay. Go
have
ahead.
a podcast, Karen's Inquisitive Corner. Karen's Inquisitive Corner, the niche is everything health from A to Z. We cover absolutely everything. There's nothing left off the table. Yes, we cover high blood pressure and nutrition and so forth, but we also cover those tough, really hard topics that have been in the corner or put in closets or under the bed for generations and generations. We talk about it loud, and we say it very clearly so we can break generational curses that may have been in people's families for years and years. So, Karen's Inquisitive Corner every Saturday, and we talk everything health. I also open up Karen's Inquisitive Corner to take suggestions of any topics that the audience wants to hear, and I'll bring that
Nice.
topic to them and also that information. I'm a life coach, but one thing that's different about me life coaching and my skill to life coach is I have actually lived everything that I'm coaching on. So
Good.
not
Good. Good.
only am I coaching on my learned and taught experiences in school, I'm coaching on firsthand experiences. So that makes it a lot easier and better to the person I'm coaching because I've walked in those shoes. So when they ask me, do you know how I feel? I can actually say yes. I've walked in those shoes. I know how you feel. And I really think that enhances my ability to coach really well. I'm also a speaker and I love to do public speaking. And my goal is just to help people be the best person that they can be. And it's all inside of
Love it.
us. We have to pull it out inside of us.
That's right. That's right. All right, Karen, I've got a great question for you. I'm going to pull
Okay.
it out of you. If we wanted to improve our spiritual health with faith, what simple piece of advice would you give me?
Well, let me just say, I feel that spiritual health is hope. Whatever your spiritual belief is, whatever it is, you have to have hope, something to live towards
Okay.
that's going
Good.
to be better. I also feel that fate can be influenced by genetics. It can be influenced by our environment, by our surroundings, by how we were raised. But we have control of our fate. Just because we were raised in an abusive family does not mean that we have to be abusive. We
Good.
have
Good.
control of our fate. We can determine the direction that our fate goes in. Now, is this going to be something that's going to happen overnight? No. It may be work, it may be counseling, it may be medication, or whatever you need. But you have to decide what your fate is, whether you want a good outcome or whether you don't want a good outcome. There are things in life that don't have to be taught. It does not have to be one of the 10 commandments. Everybody knows you don't walk in Walmart, pick up something, and walk out the door without paying for it. Nobody had to teach you that. Nobody had to tell you that. There are some things that you know not to do. But when you get in the situation that fate becomes genetic, yes, you're going to need some help. But it all starts with you. You cannot get the help until you say, hey, I've got a problem. And I don't want my outcome, I don't want my future, I don't want my fate in life to end up this way. So I think it's all in you.
I like it. All right. So very, very intrinsic, internal fate,
Yes.
and you control it. You control it.
I feel like you definitely control your fate. You have a choice. You have a choice to go down this path or go down another path. But sometimes you also in control with the work. You have to do the work sometimes to get there.
Where on your life journey did you learn this tip?
Well, in my life journey, I have had some situations in my life. I was molested at a young age. I was in an abusive
Jeez.
marriage for 7 years, physically and mentally abusive. So I realized in counseling and really looking at why do I attract these type of people, in my life? How can I let go of the anger and the hate that I had towards the person that did this to me as a child? So in myself, I did not want to continue to live my life with that person. I didn't want to continue to live my life with the hate, with the disgust, with
Yeah.
the lack of confidence and ability to be the person that I wanted to be, the person that I am today. So I made that decision to change my fate. And by learning by the things that I had gone through in my life, and ultimately, after years, understanding that the person that hurt me was also hurt mentally.
Yep. Yep.
So
Very true.
it wasn't totally about me. It was about that person that hurt me. My husband that was abusive, it wasn't anything that I brought to the table. It was him and what he was going through, and what he had to deal with, which came out on me. And a lot of people often use the word hate very, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. I really don't know if they really understand what it means to actually hate somebody, because it actually can consume you. So I made the decision that I didn't want to live with this hate in my life and have that be my fate ultimately. That I didn't want to carry on my back this feeling of hate. And it's really not mine. It's it's somebody else's. So I didn't want that fate in my life.
Yeah.
So I decided to do the work. And at 61, I've been divorced over 20 something years. But I can say right
Okay.
now, in the last 10 years, I've been able to deal with what I went through during the marriage, accept the person I am now, know the person I am now. And that way, I'm going to change my fate going forward. I'm not going to attract that type of person anymore because I know my worth. I know what I'm worth,
Good.
and
Good
I
for you.
know who I am. So I definitely think that you can change it. You have to put in the work and you have to admit that you need to change.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Karen. We'll bring you back out in the round robin. We're going to move on to our
Okay.
next guest.
Thank you.
Hey, Beth.
Hey
Who are you?
there. Great to be with you, Austin. I am an empowered survivor. I'm the healing mentor. I'm an author, an inspirational speaker, and I'm a former forensic accountant and consulting executive. So, just pausing on each of those. As an empowered survivor, I've taken a journey very similar to the one that Karen was just talking about, my very own journey to becoming an empowered survivor. Through that process, I developed what is my view of how the healing process works. And it's a framework that I've developed around the world. Word heal, which for me is an action packed acronym that means to hope, evolve, and love. The evolving part is where a lot of that change that Karen talked about occurred. As an author, I'm actually launching my first solo book next Tuesday, October the 8th. And for anyone who's
Nice.
interested in knowing about it, yeah, you can follow me on social media. I'm connected here. And also my website, I think that's going to be made available, empoweredsurvivors.com. But you can follow me in all of those places to see what's coming. Super excited about that. And as a speaker, I'll just say that my mission there is to spread my healing message far and wide. So what I want every other trauma and abuse survivor out there to know is that you too can heal. That is the subtitle of my book. It's truly what I believe. I've done it. I'm the living testament to getting through that healing process. And I know that it is possible for anyone else out there who's a survivor that has not done the healing work. And the last thing I'll touch on, as a forensic accountant and consulting executive for over 30 years, I did some really cool work where I got to investigate fraud and white-collar crime and corruption and bribery in some of the biggest companies that we have in this world and all over the world. So that's me.
And you're no longer a forensic accountant.
I'll always be a forensic accountant, but I don't do that work presently. That's correct.
Okay,
I've made
what a life
full
shift.
transition.
What a life shift.
Yes.
All right, Beth, I've got an important question to ask you.
Yes.
If I wanted to improve my spiritual health with fate, what tiny piece of advice would you give me?
I would tell you to seek and be open to your unique spiritual guidance and messaging that the universe, your higher power, is trying to tell you. You do have a divinely led pathway out there. That is probably what people refer to as fate. So seeking the guidance about how you walk that pathway is really, really important.
Very cool. All right. Anything else you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So what I would say about that, Manoj, he mentioned karma, and Karen talked about personal choice, being able to direct where fate goes. And I agree with both of those things. I think it's also about the soul's work. I believe that the soul travels through many lifetimes for us, and in each lifetime we're doing something else that we're meant to be doing. And perhaps at the end of that journey for our soul, we end up at heaven or enlightenment, however you want to think about that from a religious perspective. I think the whole notion of something being beyond a person's control and the definition of fate, if you look that up, I think that's where choice comes into play. If you're on your pathway, things move relatively well, but if you're not, you get messages spiritually that are trying to course correct you. And that's where the choice comes into play to get on your pathway that is divinely laid out for you. And I would also say that to figure out how you know what your pathway is, that's seeking those messages, right? And I've done it in many, many different ways. So everything from prayer, meditation, my own intuition, working with a lot of people who are gifted and connected to the spiritual world and can give you those messages, channel those messages to you, reading books, joining groups where you have like-minded people. I think those are all ways that you can figure out what is your fate, or as I would say it, that divinely led pathway.
All right. Tell us a little bit, Beth, where you learned this tip. Where'd you learn this advice?
It's my own experience. So I've had a very long spiritual journey throughout my life. I am what I believe people would refer to as an omniist, which means that I believe there are truths in all religions or beliefs or practices, but no one has all of the truth, and we need all of them to be able to figure our way through life and what is our path that we're supposed to be walking on to get the guidance that we need. So awesome. Certainly my healing journey that I've been through to become an empowered survivor, that really has taught me a lot about spiritual influence in our life. So I know I'm on a divinely led pathway. I have been from the moment that I was born. At about 45 years of a bumpy life, not so great, beginning with some trauma and abuse and when I was 5, and then continuing experiencing those types of things for many years, living as what I call an unhealthy survivor. And then I had an opportunity to heal. About 4 years ago, I was given that opportunity to really get on my healing pathway and do some intense work to heal myself from the way that I was surviving. That was my choice with my fate to end the way that I was living my life, which wasn't great. But I've really seen the power of spirit and that divinity in my pathway in the last 4.5 years as I've walked, or literally as I've been ready to take the next step. Every resource that I have needed has been available to me. And I know that is all part of my faith leading to me to where I am today and where I'll be tomorrow and the next day. And the next day is all part of it.
Awesome. All right, Beth, you ready to bring out Manoj and Karen and let's have a little round robin?
Yeah.
All right, let's start with Manoj. Can you refresh what your tip was for us?
Well, it was about connecting with your previous generation, connecting with your ancestors.
Karen, what are your thoughts on that?
On connecting with your ancestors,
Yeah.
Correct.
I definitely feel that a lot of who we are is genetic, and it definitely comes down from generation to generation to generation, the bad and the good. And I refer to them as generational curses. But at some point of a generation, those curses need to be broke. And
Oh,
all the things that have been whispered, all the things that's been put in the closet, all the skeletons, all the excuses that were made for people to do things. Oh, he's just never been good. He's never been right. Well, she's never been right because her husband died. We need to name it. She's depressed. We need to say it out loud. We need to admit it, and we need to change that generational curse. So yes, I do agree with it.
Thank you.
Beth, what are your thoughts on her tip?
absolutely, I agree. And in fact, I've had several of my spiritual guides tell me that I am the curse breaker in my
Oh, good.
family, and I'm actively living that right now. I'm in a family that has been plagued with the family generational curse for at least 6 generations that I know of, maybe 7. And I'm actively working right now with my immediate family to not allow that curse to perpetuate on to the youngest of our generation who's alive right now, my 2.5-year-old great nephew. So I know it to be true because I'm living it. And as I said, I am the curse breaker. My father before me is what's known as the cycle breaker. So he is the one that stopped the abuse from moving down generations in the family. But the residual effects of that and the way that we live our lives as unhealthy survivors, how I refer to it, that's my job right now in my family to stop all of that and to move us in a different direction where we're all thriving in our lives instead of suffering.
All right, question for you guys. What percent do you believe of your fate is determined by past generations in your family?
I would say about 80% of it.
Ooh,
I would probably say about 60% of it.
okay.
I'm going to say 50 because, and I think from my own experience, half of me is what came from my family, but I've made a choice to do something very different. I made a choice to heal, and that's where I think the 50% is now guiding what my fate is and what my pathway is.
Okay. Karen, can you quickly refresh what your tip was?
So my tip is simply we are in control of ourselves. We are in control of ourselves. And we make the decision about what type of person we're going to be, what type of character we're going to have, and how we ultimately live our faith. But also, and I do want to say this, there are people in the world that are more challenged with changing their fate, like narcissists, antisocial personality, people that are born with these type of conditions. They may be a little more challenged to redirect their fate. They can do it, but it still goes back to admitting that you need help, that you have that problem, and that you don't want to continue your life to have your fate end up being that type of person.
All right. Beth, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with Karen. I think that the healing process is what changes our fate. But for some of us, evolving, which is getting to know yourself, deep self-discovery, which is the dark stuff, plus the good things about who each of us are, that work can be really, really challenging, and it's more challenging for some than others. That's why I think a lot of people don't heal. They may not even have the opportunity to. They don't have something that happens to them where they recognize that they need to heal, which was my experience, what they call the life quake event or the life altering event, hitting rock bottom, if you will, for some people. Some recognize they're at that place and some don't. But the healing process it can be really hard facing some of the darkness and some of the secrets that are hidden. But you have to do that work in order to change so that you're not suffering in life anymore, which is all of those things that Karen's referring to, all those dark things that we live with in our life. That's just our suffering. But we can change it. It's just hard to get there. It can be hard to get there. But you can do it. I did it. You can.
You're still doing it too, right?
I am still doing it, although now my work is really about helping other people to walk to find and walk their healing pathway. It's what my Heal framework is about. And it's actually, the launch of my book is the start of a movement. It's my message out into the world to tell people, other survivors of trauma and abuse, you too can heal. So I am living it really from a growth perspective and an expansion perspective for purposes of teaching others. So I have some really cool spiritual experiences in healing the first relationship in my life that was hurtful, which was my grandfather, who sexually abused me when I was 5. And I've healed that relationship sufficiently for me to release the bind, Karen, as you mentioned, that bind on my heart that kept me from engaging in deep relationships with people, prevented me from loving people truly. And now, I've gone on to heal that relationship where it's a really cool experience. And we could talk, Austin, for an hour about those experiences that I've had, which are all part of spiritual messaging for me. But a lot of it is about teaching other people what's possible if you're open to really letting spirit move in you as you're going through the healing process. It's very cool. I'm awestruck by some of my own experiences. They're awesome.
That's awesome. I love it. Manoj, quick question for you. When you do your website, do you take DNA?
We do not take DNA because what happens with DNA, the DNA has evolved over a period of time, is diluted over a period of time. So if you look at the new study, we found out that we've all evolved from Africa, and people from Africa moved around the world to generate people across. So at the end of the day, we all have the same DNA. And even if the truth comes out, we've evolved from the monkeys or from the apes, we've still got the same DNA. How could it be any different? So anywhere, somewhere, or the other, we'll always have markers which have come close to it. And not only that, if you look at certain platforms out there which claim that they've got DNA and they'll start looking for your DNA. DNA preservation started happening in 1988. If anybody's getting your information before that date, how are they getting it in the first place? Right.
Makes
So
sense. All
we
right.
don't do that. Yeah. It's more about stories. It's more about you trying to
Yeah.
connect it. Let's say for my mother, I have a daughter, a 12-year-old. She will go back, read her stories. She will have kids eventually. They will go back and read the stories, and we will go back and connect. Well, one thing that we've seen, or we were talking to somebody in Malaysia, and she does the academics, and she writes all the stuff for the academics, and she said very beautifully is, why are we losing, or why are things happening the way they're happening with kids? They are all lost all over the place. Is because we're not grounded. There are no roots available to us to connect with. And that's why we're haywire. We've got all the things happening around, got fights, gun fights, we've got knives, people crying, crimes are happening across because we're not connected. Once we can connect that back with our ancestors, and DNAs don't connect you, but stories connect you, those learnings connect you.
Oh, I like that. I like that
Mm.
aspect.
Austin, I wanted to just make one other comment. How awful would it be for any of us to go through things in life and not share it and try to help somebody else? I feel
Yeah.
like that is our duty.
I agree.
Yes, when we're going through it, it's actually horrible. It's horrible. But then when you look back and say, I'm a survivor, I made it, it is our goal. I mean, it should be our fate to share it
Yes.
with somebody else that's going through the same thing. And, they don't have anybody to talk to. Nobody's saying it out loud in their family, in their environment, in their churches. And that's what I try to do on Karen's Inquisitive Corner. I share a lot of myself because you never know what people are going through, and you never know what somebody's going to get out of something that you see.
So true.
All right. One last question for you guys.
Mhm.
This will be a fun one. Maybe. We'll find out. Do you guys, how do you define fate?
My life's purpose, that's how I would define it.
Your life's
I would,
purpose is your fate. Okay. All right.
Hmm. Hmm.
I would define it as goal setting. That you set a goal of what you want your fate, what you want your life, what you want your outcome to be, and you do whatever you need to do to work towards it.
Cool. Okay. I like that.
Fate is more like, you're driving a car. You're driving on a road, you know where you want to reach. But on the way, there are loads of other direction, or the roads will come by roads and other things. Do you want to take that road, or do you want to keep going to your destination? How do you get to your destination? Do you want to get drunk and drive? And that's your fate. How are you making any but conversations on the way, meeting, stopping people? That's your fate. And how do you decide on fate? You make your own fate, because you stopping on the way, because you're taking that the other direction, because you lost direction and you do not want to get back to your that goal that you had in mind.
Awesome. I love it. All right. Any last things before we wrap it up? We got to come up with a daily challenge here, too.
All right. Last thought would be, a lot of people would come back and talk about religion. Life Index is not about religion. Life Index is all about preserving all those deceased family members. We're not Facebook, we're not Instagram, we're not LinkedIn. The beautiful thing about Life Index is if your deceased family member is on our platform, and if somebody searches them in the next about a month or two, you will be found, or they will be found on the first pages of Google search, not on the last pages, not available ever, but they'll be available in history. But because history is not only for the rich and famous, it's not only for Alexander and Caesar, because Alexander and Caesar was made by us. If there were no us, there'd be no Alexander and Caesar.
So, one last quick question. Manoj, do we want to put our stories in there, too, for our children and our grandchildren?
This is only for the deceased family member. That's why we're
Okay.
different. We're not Facebook, we're not LinkedIn, we're not
I guess that
Instagram.
makes
So
sense. Okay.
once a deceased family member has gone away, that's when you start posting things about them. One more thing about Life Index is once you've done that, you can go ahead and take that link and send it out to loads of people, and they can come back and write their last thoughts about this person. And just imagine they accumulate over the next 10, 20 years, and people can come back and read that how was this person perceived by other people. The beauty of it is that you get to document all of that.
Awesome. Very cool, Manoj. All right. Well, we got to wrap this show up. So we got to come up with a daily challenge. We have to come up with a task on how to improve our spiritual health with fate. It must take less than 5 minutes a day. It must cost us $0 and be available to anyone in the world. What ideas do you guys have?
Affirmations daily, positive affirmations, positive motivation, that you hear it over and over and over again, just like a song, over and over and over again.
Maybe something like an affirmation directing towards like a good fate. I feel like a lot of people, they go down, maybe like they're struggling like financially. Let's say that they're broke,
Yes.
and they're just like, it's my fate. My family's always been broke. It's time there. So maybe we do some affirmations focusing on what do we say, breaking the generational cycle or something like that.
Believing in yourself, knowing that you have control, knowing that the healing is inside of you, and just encouraging you to be confident and that you're going to make it. You can Google it, YouTube. I mean, it's podcasts with it. It's all over Facebook that you can read it. Find your favorite, read it every day. Post it on your bathroom, post it on your refrigerator, post it on your computer.
Any other thoughts, Manoj or Beth?
Would say every
Go ahead.
day find your spiritual messaging, your guidance, and you can do that through prayer, meditation, listening to your intuition, however it is that you connect with the higher power. That will help you to know what your purpose is, your pathway, your fate, and I think also clue you into where you can make changes if you need to make changes.
Awesome.
All right.
So, what I feel is go ahead and start, recollecting or try looking for information. If your parents are alive, you can get enough information about your grandparents. If your grandparents are still alive, you can still get information about your great grandparents. If your great grandparents are alive, you can still get about two more generations out of them. So, which means you've got enough wealth of information, enough faith that has been happening, and you can take charge of it. Now, our platform does charge $9, and that's only one time fee. Well, what we can do is we can give away 10 lucky winners or 10 lucky people, and we'll give it away for free for 10 people.
Manoj, you are amazing. So let's turn this into the daily challenge. So you can give the 10 people their free thing, but maybe we contact. Yeah, this would be great. Less than 5 minutes. So we'll do the daily affirmations to try to focus you on your fate, right? But I love the having to call your mom or your grandma and ask them for a 4 minute story because you're going to do 1 minute for affirmations, right? So we have to find 4 minute stories about our great grandparents or great grandparents, or even about our parents. I mean, you could still hear a story about your parents. Um, and how does that sound? You guys like that?
Mhm. I
Yeah,
love that.
exactly.
So little affirmation. Maybe you even call your mom and tell her your affirmation, like, "Mom, I'm gonna be a millionaire in 10 years. I'm gonna be a millionaire in 10 years. Tell me a story about you as a kid."
Yeah. I also want to say, Austin, that my first hour of life coach is free. So I just want to throw it out there.
Perfect. So if you are watching this and you are spiritually lost, we've had a couple comments regarding that. You just got two amazing offers right now. Go find them on Facebook. We've shared their links. They're all in the little chats here. Go check them out. Get a coaching with Karen. Get a coaching with me. Get a free life with Manoj, and Beth will also do free stuff called "Tell You You're Awesome."
Yeah, connect. I work as a healing mentor, so if you wanna connect with me, we can chat about how I might be able to help you. Initially, that can be done. I can do that for free too. Yep.
Do it. Do it. Go contact them. I love that daily challenge. So do a little affirmation to make sure your life's good, and then go find and listen to a little 4 minute story from your past, from a previous generation. That'll be the rule. So it could be your parents, could be your grandparents, could even be aunts and uncles. I mean, you can anyone from a generation above you. Go listen to a story from them.
Could
That'll be
be
fun.
anybody in that matter. Could be somebody that you've lost recently as well. If you've lost
Okay.
somebody recently, because everybody leaves some or the other story behind, and we forget those
Okay.
stories. Yeah.
So it doesn't even have to be oral. It could be something you find in a
Mhm.
state or something like that too.
Correct.
Cool.
Yes.
I love it. That's a great addition. All right, guys. Well, we are going to wrap up the show. Thank you so much for coming on, being
Thank
guests.
you.
I knew that it was going to go longer. I just knew it once I met you guys. Sorry for taking so long. But thank you all, Karen, Manoj, Beth. Thank you so much. And thank all of you watching for hanging out for another episode of Millionaires Are Made. I hope you had an awesome time. Go check out all of our guests. I know there's a few of you out there that might be a little spiritually lost. We had a lot of comments that definitely resounded with that. We have guests here. They're here for you, offering all sorts of stuff. And daily challenge is going to be awesome. Go and do your daily affirmation. Focus on something